Do you like trans people? Great news. From March 31st to April 12th, there will be over 40 shows made by trans folks happening on live stream and video on demand and in person in Los Angeles. Check out The Joy Who Lived, a trans theater and comedy festival featuring incredible art, including a live reading written and directed by me and my wife and writing partner Susan of our original pilot, Robo-Waitress Assassins. In a world where murder is legal, a cybernetic waitress is used to assassinate anyone the mega company known as corporate wants out of the way. But a personal catastrophe spurs her to defy her programming and expose corporate to save others like herself. A full cast live reading of a trans, queer, cyberpunk action dramedy pilot full of action, humor, and heart, and about how society controls our bodily autonomy and pits us against each other to keep us from rising up. Check it out at joywholived.com, where you can support the festival, get tickets, and learn how to get involved. Welcome to Tilly's Trans Tuesdays. This week we're going to discuss how trans existence can just be so confusing to some cis people, even while other cis people can bring much needed relief simply by seeing us for who we really are. Let's talk No Escape 2, Some Escape Due to Cis Allyship. Hi, I'm Tilly Bridges, your host, and I'm joined by my writing partner, my best friend, my wife, our token cis representation, the person who always gives me an escape when the world feels cold and cruel, Susan Bridges.
Hello.
Our returning guest is Alex Ritany, a Canadian artist, musician, and YA author of Dead Girls Don't Say Sorry from Knopf BFYR, I Wish You Wouldn't, and Maybe Tomorrow I'll Know, upcoming April 7th, 2026 from Norton BFYR. That is today. Go get it. When they're not at the keyboard, you can find them hosting tabletop game night, working on illustrations, or at their other keyboard composing music. Alex's love of art, music, and the Western Canadian landscape regularly spills into their writing, which tends to feature complex friendships, twisty romances, and explorations of queerness. They live in Calgary with their roommate, cat, and dice collection. Welcome back, Alex.
Thanks for having me again.
I love that your dice collection is on the same level as your cat and roommate.
I take it very seriously. This won't be visible to people with audio, so I'll describe it. I have a dice tower that is a skull.
It's a skull.
Very cool.
And I keep in it I have one dice set of 7 polyhedral die that I use to help me make decisions during my day-to-day life, so I don't have to think. I take it very seriously.
That's so cool, though. Oh, I wish folks could see it. Too bad you should have been on this call with us.
That's a fun idea.
It is.
I like it.
Yeah.
Hey, dice for chores, the way to go.
Okay. Well, let's talk a little bit more about tabletop games then. What are your favorites? Why do you love them so much?
I am a forever DM. I love the storytelling aspect.
Yeah.
I am always in it for story. I love a good mechanic, but I'm not a crunchy numbers guy.
Same.
I never have been. So I've been primarily using D&D 5e. I did some 3.5 way back in the day, but then took a break, came back to it, and have been running a game for 4 years now with the same people, which has been so gratifying. The appeal totally is, what if I got to hang out and play dolls with my friends, and then the dice add the unpredictability of we're going to tell a story together. Let's, as things hang in the balance, use something else to deal with decision fatigue. And it's such a fun way to tell a story. So I love D&D 5e, and then like Kids on Bikes and other different kind of home brewing systems.
Yeah, that one looks so cool. I have it. I just haven't had the time to read it yet.
It's fantastic. It really works well for the storytelling heavy games.
Yeah.
Because the system is so flexible. we've used a system like Dimension 20 has never stopped blowing up. So we've been adopting some of that into our games where, if you roll the highest number on the die, it blows up, you get to roll it again. So there's the chance of like really powerful successes.
Yeah, yeah.
I've had a character make a roll a 52 on a difficulty class 7 check. And then I have to allow
Wow.
for some crazy shenanigans.
Yeah.
But yeah, I love telling stories with my friends. One of my players is also a writer. Yeah, two of my other players are like big readers, English majors, love story. So
Yeah.
we're there to play gay dolls and have a good time. And I wouldn't have it any other way.
Yeah, it's the best. Like I run 2 Star Trek Adventures games in a shared universe, and each has been going for over 5 years. And
Awesome.
both games are packed full of writers. One of them is all writers. And let me tell you, I mean, as a GM, that no plan or story survives contact with the players, right? They always do
No,
something you don't
no.
expect. But when you have 7 writers,
Professional writer.
7 professional writers that you are running a
Boy,
game for, they will wreck your shit
I
every
believe
day.
it.
Every day.
Oh my
Yeah.
goodness.
We have
Yeah,
fun.
yeah, do you ever find there's like a power struggle at your table because of the amount of ideas coming from super creative people?
No, I don't find a power struggle. My struggle comes in trying to keep up with them because like I've gotten to the point now, I used to write really complicated, detailed, complex adventures, and they would blow up everything all the time because they're all
Yeah.
writers and creative and they would do things I'd never imagined they would do no matter how many contingencies I had. I'm looking at you, Susan. And so now I've gotten to the point where I just do a loose outline for what I hope the session will be, and then I just got to roll with it. And there's so much like improv of story as I go trying to keep up with them. So,
Totally.
yeah,
I won't lie to you. Regularly, I rock up to a session with a blank document.
sure.
And I go, I know what's going on. And I make it up the whole time.
Yeah.
And then afterwards, they're like, oh my goodness, the lore that you have must be crazy. And I go, no, I forgot it. I forgot it. I made it up. I said it. It left my mouth and it's gone.
And now it's gone.
So
Yeah.
we're all playing improv.
Yeah. But
Well,
that's
it happened too many times that you were like, I prepared this whole thing because I thought you were going to go do this and you never did.
and I never get to use those things. So I'm like, why am I doing all this work? I'll just roll with it. I'll have like, 5 bullet points. I'm like, let's try to see if we can
Look,
work this in
now we
somewhere.
were going to turn the shuttlecraft into a robot. And
A
then,
transformer
yeah, and then do a robot battle.
and then do a robot
Yeah.
fight in a tournament. Yeah, no. You
That was
can't.
pretty great.
Anyway, but
Yeah.
yeah, that's why I love them. It's like the most creative, fun thing to get together with your friends and all tell a story together.
I do think,
Yeah,
though, that
exactly.
we have a lot of deep philosophical discussions, and you're like, come on, we got to move this along. Like, the writers are just...
There have been
We-
45-minute debates about what the most ethical course of action is. So,
I had players once take an hour and a half to decide how to go down a ladder. There were no ethics involved. It was the
amazing.
mechanics. And I was like, hey guys, we have a sprawling labyrinth adventure at the bottom of the ladder waiting for you.
If you
Hour
could
and a half.
just...
Hour and a half. It was awesome. I usually, because how adult lives are trying to wrangle games
Oh, yeah,
to happen.
scheduling is the
So
hardest thing.
we will make it work. And when we make it work, we are going to play for as long as possible. So we've had
Sure.
sessions that run for like 8 hours. So as soon as
Wow.
my players start yapping, I'm like, I'm just gonna sit back. I'm gonna take a drink of water. I am not corralling anything. You guys
Yeah.
do you, and
I'm
don't
going to go
make me
make a
play.
snack and just listen.
I would rather listen to you guys talk than have you guys watch me while I am playing a conversation between 2 different NPCs having a conversation with myself. I don't
Exactly,
want to do it.
exactly.
Ugh,
Ah,
yeah.
they're the best. All right. For you, what has been the most surprising thing about transition?
Ugh. I never expected to pass.
Mm,
And I don't feel necessarily like I'm on a strict binary of transitioning from one binary
sure.
edge to the other. I know for a lot of people that is the experience. And I knew that, my own internal gender identity is quite soupy. It's a mess of many things. I did know, like, whether we like it or not, people tend to assume one or the other.
Yep.
Rarely are they coming up to you and being like, you look androgynous. And I know how to deal with that. Usually if you look androgynous, they go, that freaks me out and I'm going to be weird to you. You go,
Yep.
okay. So I didn't expect to get to a place where I was passing regularly, especially like I come from a family where like genetically we are very curvaceous women. And so I grew up that way and was like, it's just never gonna happen. Hormones are crazy. Hormones are
Right.
crazy.
Right.
I pass 90% of the time, 95% of the time even in public. And that's been a surprise. It's been a great surprise because I do prefer to be perceived masculine. And yeah, it's surprising to me how many of my coworkers who are, in their 60s and 70s are like, you're a handsome young man. Like, oh, cool.
Well, thank
I
you.
love that for me. I love that for me. I know you don't know I'm trans because one time I alluded to it and you got so confused, you stumbled your way for the next 30 seconds and left as soon as you possibly could.
Yeah.
Oh, to hear those things has been surprising, and to see, especially, I up here in Canada, I'm in basically the Bible Belt of Canada. Alberta is like we call it the Texas of Canada. We
Oh,
had
wow.
Trump rallies up here. He doesn't go
Wow.
here.
No, that makes no sense. Okay. Wow.
Yeah, so it's great, and I have been pleasantly surprised by the amount of people who face to face in public who don't know me, are strangers, are very cool and were cool even when I was still visibly in that awkward fledgling second puberty stage where
Yeah.
nobody knows exactly what's going on with you.
Yeah. Yeah.
People have been surprisingly patient.
When I hit that stage, it was rough. Even here in Los Angeles, I would get misgendered a lot. And even still, like mostly now I get gendered correctly, but I'm over 6 foot tall. I've got really broad shoulders. I'm muscular. I got a big jaw, and those are things I can't ever change. And so, you know, I I have such a complicated relationship with passing. Like, I would love to be seen and gendered correctly, but also I
Mhm.
don't want people, I don't care if people think I'm cis, I'm like so proud to be trans. So it's such
Yes,
a complex thing that I think each of us has our own individual relationship with, and they're all a little bit different.
totally.
And
Yes.
sometimes it's just people being annoying.
Well,
Like you're wearing 100 bows and you have a bag and they misgender you, and you're like, come on now.
did you
Hello.
not see these boobs in your face? Well, I didn't put
Welcome
them
to
in
your
my face,
first
but
day on planet Earth.
yeah,
Are you being rude on purpose? The answer is usually yes.
usually yes, yeah,
Yeah. Yeah. I think the trans femme experience is so different in that way too, because there's definitely a different social climate for
yep.
trans femme people than, yeah, trans women are the most powerful people I know.
Well,
And
thank you.
you're all like, I think I never understood the hatred that and the intensity of the attacks that trans women get from cis people. Like it seems like often you're like kind of the poster child for trans people and the hatred. And I never got it
Yeah.
because I'm like, do you know how cool you have to be a trans woman?
It's true.
Does
We're all
anybody
very cool.
understand? Am I alone? Am I by myself? What is happening? Why is everybody hating specifically on this? Because it doesn't make any sense. And like there's lots of reasons why, and I get the fear that cis people have, but
I think a lot of it is we were quote unquote gifted with masculinity at birth, and
Yeah.
all of society says, especially if you're white and a man, that is the best thing you could ever be. And trans
yeah.
women are
Why would you
collectively like,
say?
nah, we don't want that.
Yeah,
And that
yeah,
shows that it's not actually the best thing that you can be. And I
yeah,
think that makes all of them feel so vulnerable and
That's not what you were taught.
right.
You were
So
given
yeah,
you are at the top of the food chain.
how dare you
Why
throw
would
this
you give
away?
that up?
Yeah.
Like there must be
yeah,
something wrong with you.
Yeah, yeah, and you're
yeah.
threatening our whole system that we built our sexist society on. So,
Yeah. Like all trans people are a challenge to the
yep,
norm, but trans women are the challenge and also the coolest. So come on,
thank
guys,
you, thank
get
you.
it together.
We will all be sending you a check in the mail. No one sends checks anymore. How old am I? Okay,
No. You're
all
at
right,
Amazon.
that's true.
All Amazons are trans.
Okay,
That's my headcanon.
Yeah,
got it.
I love that.
If
I'm
you
with you.
had one piece of advice for someone just starting their transition, or maybe if there was something you wish you knew going in ahead of time, what would it be?
Ooh, you will never get, this will sound depressing, it's not. You will never get the kind of validation from anybody else that you think is going to matter. You will feel like validation from X person is going to be a concrete moment or make a huge difference in your journey and your sense of self. And you will feel like the temptation to desire that external validation
Yeah.
never going to be as powerful as what you can do through consistently working on how you see yourself.
Yep. It's the internal validation that is going
Yeah.
to give you everything that you need. Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
And being validated by other people is fantastic, but you cannot rely on it for how you feel about yourself. Otherwise, you will be in shambles all the time.
Yeah, I also feel like if you lead that way in trying to do the things that you think will make certain people validate you, that may not be the things that are right for you or that you want or that will make you happy. It's more
Yeah.
important that you follow your own heart and validate yourself. Yeah, I love that.
Yeah.
That's really good.
Absolutely.
All right, before we dive into this week's topic, do you want to remind folks one more time where they can find you online after listening?
Yes, I am on Instagram at Alex Ritany. I have a Tumblr blog where the goofy behind the scenes stuff happens. That's just A Ritany. And I forgot to mention this last time. I also have a website,
Yeah.
aritany.com.
Excellent. That's why we do 2 episodes. See, now it's all
Yeah.
set. All right, as a primer, please see episode 133 of this show on No Escape about how my dead name and reminders that I'm trans and thus othered by cis society at large are things that I can never get away from. You will see at the end of that how one small, kind gesture was able to make things better for me, and this essay builds on that in a deeper way. As evidence of how difficult some of this is for trans people, there was a time somewhat early on in my transition where I had to have a background check done as part of a writing job, believe it or not. And I got stuck on the very first page of the form because it said to put my legal name, and at the time, that was Tilly. I had legally changed my name. But I also had to check a box that says, quote, "This is the name that appears on my government-issued ID," which it was not yet, as I hadn't been able to get a new driver's license. At the time, I had no legal identification with my new legal name on it. And this was because I came out and began transitioning and changing all of my legal info in the middle of COVID lockdown. And so many things had slowed to a crawl. For more on that, see the essay on a pandemic transition at
TillysTransTuesdays.com. Oh, and it wasn't really lockdown, but it was lockdown-ish.
Okay.
I object to lockdown.
Okay, you're right. It wasn't a true lockdown. This is anyway actually important for the larger thing I'll be talking about in a moment, so you need the context. But anyway, for this background check that I had no legal ID that matched my legal name for, I contacted them about the problem, and they advised me to put my legal last name on the form, even if it didn't match my ID. But my last name hadn't changed. I guess they just assumed it had because that's probably what changes most often due to marriage. So I had to tell them, no, it's my first name that changed. And then they asked the old name, and suddenly I had to discuss being trans with a stranger. And I'd really rather not have to do that, but I am forced into it, and hey, that's kind of bad, actually. I had to put my dead name on the form, which didn't match the name of the person the form was sent to, and so it becomes a whole thing. And even better, they wanted to know my sex, which had been legally changed by this point, but it also hadn't been changed on my ID yet. And it made me feel very not great to have to put that name on things, much less see it again or have to sign it in a signature. It was super awful. It made me want to curl into a ball and hide, but also scream in anger at the top of my lungs. Because for a long time, whenever I thought I was finally away from it, it would pop right back up again. Even now, nearly 6 years in, it still does on an almost daily basis. So do see that original No Escape talk in episode 132 if you've not heard it yet for more on that. Have you encountered anything like this horrible situation, Alex, where only part of everything you needed to change in terms of ID and documents had been done and it caused a ton of problems?
Yeah. I mean, yeah, I had such a time trying to change my name in order to get my correct name on the copyright of my debut
Right.
novel in time for it to come out. And that was, it was a process. Government forms, they tell you it'll take 6 weeks. It will not take 6 weeks. It will take 6 months.
Yeah.
But yeah, that whole process was because I was changing my first and last name because I had my dead name and my maiden name, which feels goofy to say.
Oh,
But I had
Yeah.
that, and then I had my dead name, married name, and I was changing to a completely new first and last name. So I still carry around a big thing of paperwork that is like, here's what's on my birth certificate. Here's what may be on some of my other things that you may know me as, and here's what's
Yeah.
on my actual license, just in case, because it's come up all the time. I actually recently had to deal with I was trying to close a bank account from when I was like a teenager. I thought I'd closed it and they were sending mail to my parents' house. I was like, actually. So I called them and I had my big folder of paperwork ready and was expecting to have to do that. And they actually were just they were down with it being the other way. I'm pretty sure they thought I was trans femme because I said, hey, I'd like to close the account under dead name. I'm like, I don't sound like I've got the deep voice. I was rocking it. I was ready to have that difficult conversation.
Yeah.
And he was like, "Of course, ma'am. Let me get that going for you." I was like,
Whew.
"You know what? I love this allyship. It's not what you think, but sure.
At least they're doing the thing you need and not giving you
Yeah,
crap for it. So,
exactly."
I mean,
But
we
yeah,
still have
trying to
problems.
yeah, all when you're all of a sudden have to discuss being trans in one way or another when you weren't expecting to.
yeah.
It's not fun.
Yeah. Well, let's get to the bigger issue I wanted to talk about. I had to go in for a colonoscopy, which may seem totally out of left
Whoa.
field, but give me a sec. It will make sense. And I am fine. Do not worry. But there is family history, so they checked very early. And ever since I had this procedure scheduled, I grew increasingly worried and anxious about it to the point where it was all I could think about. And it's not just because the prep for it is absolutely awful, it is, or that I hate going under anesthesia, which I really, really do. It was because I was still in the middle of getting new documents with my legal name and gender change reflected. And all of that info hadn't yet been changed with our health insurance and doctors. And the thought of being dead named and misgendered throughout was too much to deal with. Even though they are the ones who provided all of my transition medical care. Listen to episode 110 on hormone replacement therapy for a bit more on that. And provided all of my gender affirming speech therapy. Check out episodes 45 to 47 on trans voices. And it was right in my file that I'm trans. I still got dead named and misgendered by people who didn't bother to look at all the info, or worse, just didn't care. I briefly considered going Boymode, as we discussed in episode 74, just to not have to deal with all this. And imagine feeling you have to wear a costume to see a doctor just to not have to deal with their inability to give you the most basic amount of respect as a human being by getting your name and pronouns right. And if you need more on names and pronouns and how they affect trans people, there is an essay at
Tilly'sTransTuesdays.com.
Yeah. But the thought of boymoding again made me want to shrivel, so I ruled it out pretty quickly. As I was sitting around being anxious for weeks, they had a cancellation and called to see if I could come in a few days earlier. And I guess they're not aware of what their own department is doing because 2 different people called me, and one used my real name and one used my dead name, which only added to the anxiety. But fine, I had the prep stuff. Let's go in early, get it over with. So I do the prep, one of the worst things humans have ever devised. It is so bad. I get there and check in, and they print the little ID bracelet thing that you get when you go in for procedures, and it just has Dead Name McGee in big bold print, not even quote unquote Tilly as the preferred name listed in my chart. Super, thanks, you're all the best. And then they immediately called me in. And you can't have any jewelry or anything with you when you go in for the procedure. And I hadn't even taken off my necklace or wedding ring yet. So I'm handing all this stuff to Susan. When it hits me, they called out Dead Name McGee. Nice and loud for everyone in the waiting room to hear. And then they see me walking up, very much presenting as a woman. And when I tell you my heart was already in my feet, well, it was more like under them. It was crushed. And then I have a decision to make. Do I correct this lady? Is there a point? Am I even going to see her again during this procedure? Will she tell anyone else? What if she's a bigot? What if she doesn't care? What if she's hostile about it? And then I have to make that decision with every person I interact with during the procedure. Do you have any idea how much mental and emotional energy that many possible awful confrontations in a row would take? I wanted to run and hide, so I just said nothing. If you need more on the nightmare of dead naming and misgendering, see episode 34 on misgendering in passing. Okay, Alex, have you run into this terrible situation where doctors or medical staff just cannot seem to understand that trans people exist?
Well, yeah. Every time, it's like
Every time? Oh, yeah.
my GP is fantastic. I'm really grateful to have him. He's been an ally from day one. He switched over, no problem. But every time I encounter a new person, unless I'm specifically there to talk about something related to being trans,
Yeah,
it is as if I may be honest, it's the first trans masked person they've ever met. Sometimes you have to go in for something that is like specifically, usually like a kind of feminine biology
sure.
problem, a problem for somebody who has a uterus, and they look at you and go, "Are you sure you're here for the right thing?" And I go, "Pretty
Yep.
sure, yeah, pretty sure actually,
As if you wouldn't know.
yeah." Like, oh, let me double check. Hold on, but just in case you were right, actually, you glanced at me, you saw. I must defer to your expertise. No, but it's always the waiting room
Yep.
where the name being called the wrong name. I have not actually really, I've had the pleasure benefit of not really having been called slurs in public very much, mostly because I think the my most awkward years were kind of COVID peak,
Yeah.
and so I was inside. I was inside and nothing was happening. But the vast majority of slurs that I've received have been in medical waiting rooms, not from medical staff, thank goodness, but from other people
Wow.
where they're waiting, see, clock, realize what is happening. They're like,
Yep.
oh, I know what you are. And I
Yeah.
feel it's my time too. And it's always because of some, like a member of medical staff indicating to everybody, kind of basically lifting up the big
Yeah.
sign going, I know what you are. Here, everybody, look at what this
Everybody
is what
look.
you are.
Yep.
Everyone look. And then
Ah,
everyone looks. Like,
yep.
oh, so
It's the
yes, I know, I
worst.
sympathize. Oh, Tilly, I feel your pain.
Okay, so this nurse has my chart and she's holding it and she's looking right at it. And it says, I can see dead name, quote unquote, Tilly Bridges. It said that I'm trans. I had boobs and everything about me was visually coded female, other than the physical traits I can't change thanks to the wrong puberty I'd ever asked for. So she takes me into the little alcove where the rolly bed is and tells me to change and put the gown on and pulls the curtain closed and leaves. Great. So I change and I'm laying there in the bed being miserable. And then a guy comes in to ask me a bunch of questions. Routine stuff like when I last ate, did I drink all the prep stuff, etc. And so he pops his head in, sees me and says, "Hi, ma'am. Oh, hell yes. What a relief." But then he looks at my chart and says, "Sorry, sir. No, no, damn it. Shit, why would you do that?" Now I'm extra pissed. And do I want to get into it with this guy? The exact same situation comes up. Do I correct him? Is there a point? Am I even going to see him again? Will he tell anyone else? What if he's a bigot? What if he doesn't care? What if he's hostile about it? So I stew in silence and answer his questions. He runs down my list of medications to ask if I'm still taking them. A slight hesitation when he gets to my HRT, which is very clearly estrogen. Then he asks, and I confirm, and he doesn't know what to call me. This is not that hard, my dude. Never once did he ask. Never once did he say, "I see you go by Tilly. Would you like me to call you that?" Nope, it was just Sir and dead name McGee all the way through, until he saw my chart and got further confused. Never mind that I am a living, breathing human being sitting 2 feet away from him who could alleviate all of his confusion if he'd bothered to ask. But fine, whatever. While he's doing this, a lady comes in to put in my IV. She calls me nothing and uses no honorifics, and none of it was weird or impolite. That is literally always an option, people. Then another dude comes in to put a blood pressure cuff on me and some electrodes on my chest to monitor heart rate and such. Two go up high, no big deal. One has to go lower. He pulls out the gown. Hey, I have boobs. And we get another bit of addled cis hesitation. What should he do? He apologizes to me? What? Why? And then he attaches the electrode and off he goes. It is possible that they only put Dead Name McGee on whatever this guy saw before he came into my little curtained area. So that's not necessarily his fault. But look, man, I don't know what to tell you. Trans people exist. Okay. Have you run into this terrible poop nugget before, Alex, where cis people cannot get your name and pronouns right, but never once bother to ask you what they are?
Yes, yes. And
Yeah.
the funniest part of that is every time that's happened, I have had a name tag and pronoun badge on.
Oh my God. Or they just ignore it. Or that just
Right?
confuses them. Yeah.
It confuses them. They don't know what to do. It doesn't happen to me as much anymore because I have two name badges depending on how aggressive I guess I'm feeling. Aggressive. One is Alex, they, them, and the other one is Alex, he, him. And I put on the Alex, he, him when I don't feel like dealing with
Yeah.
70-year-old ladies who go, what?
Yeah.
They go, are you one of those pronoun people? Which at least they're asking.
That's
Are you
sort
one
of
of those
asking
people?
it. Technically,
Sort of
every
asking.
human is a pronoun person, but it's fine. It's fine.
Exactly. Yeah, no, fair. I had somebody look at me and go, I think you're using the wrong honorific. It's like, what are
Seriously?
you talking
Oh
about?
my
And he
God.
goes, Alex doesn't look very much like a him. And then he left. And I was so shocked that I didn't know how to. 'Cause moments where you're like, are you being transphobic? Or are you just being insane? I don't
It's
know.
so rude, too. Like, who?
It's so weird.
Like,
What?
well, you look kind of like an asshole.
Yeah, exactly. And things I wish I would say, and I would say were I not clocked in.
Yes.
But yeah, yeah, I do.
So I was just sitting there, waiting for my turn to go into the procedure room. It was quiet, but only in the way that these places are. So I listen and I watch because I'm a writer and that's what I do. And I heard them talking to other patients, one of whom was very upset they could not have alcohol for the rest of the day after their colonoscopy. Phones were ringing, beds were being wheeled around, and then I saw first confused dude and IV lady looking at their whiteboards of patients. And I couldn't hear all of what they were saying because another bed wheeled by, but they were pointing at the bottom of the board, which was me. And just as the clanking of a bed faded from earshot, IV lady said, quote, just used constellations. Thank goodness for the mask. And this is where I want to again remind you that this was happening during the height of COVID, and my mask had constellations on it. Yay, science, I love you. So here was a point where two cis people were just so confused by a trans person, and rather than talk to me like a human or just use the preferred name that is listed right in my effing file, they decided to otherize and dehumanize me and only refer to me by what's on my mask so they didn't have to quote unquote figure me out or heaven forbid talk to me. And sadly, that brought a little bit of weird relief because it meant no more misgendering or dead naming from these cis people who could not be asked to treat me like a human being. But I am not a damn object. I am a person with feelings that they've been freaking experts at stomping all over. So now I was feeling extra awful and dehumanized and getting really mad, and all of that was on top of my anxiety about the actual procedure itself. And I just didn't know what to do. Like, if I did get into it with these people, what if they're part of the team doing the actual procedure? Do I have to worry about them providing me less care than I deserve because they're mad at me or because it turns out they're actual bigots and not just the uncomfortable cis? I don't reach a decision before they take me into the procedure room, which is unfriendly and cold and sterile in the way those rooms always are. And it doesn't help my mood any. There were a few people prepping things, the anesthesiologist over at his own little station. He talked to me a bit, seemed friendly enough, and didn't dead name or misgender me, didn't really call me anything. I will take it. Small victories. In the corner of the room, working on a computer and her phone at the same time, was a lady, and it was hard to tell with masks, but she was probably late 20s or so. And as they're prepping me, she came over and introduced herself as the gastroenterologist who'd be performing the procedure. And she calls me Tilly. Out of the half dozen people I've interacted with so far, she is the first one to do so. She was kind and friendly and reassured me that all would be fine. And as they administered the anesthesia, someone asked her a question about me. They call me him. The doctor uses she in reply. As I drift out of consciousness, I am so glad this doctor is there that I could almost cry. The anesthesia wore off a little before the procedure was over, which is a first for me, and that is an interesting sensation during a colonoscopy. As I groggily returned to consciousness, I heard the doctor say, she's all clear, good for another 5 years. And when I tell you that hearing the she from her was just as important to me as hearing that everything looked fine and I don't have to do this again for a long time, that is not hyperbole. Have you had little moments like that, Alex, where someone seeing and respecting you when other people weren't just gave you like that little window of escape?
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. The one that comes top of mind is when I had just moved stores. I work at a bookstore chain, and I had moved from one store to a different store. And so it was like dealing with the new people, and
Yeah.
every time you're in a new environment, it's just
Yep.
like a bunch of different weird ways for people to respond to you
You
being
got to go
trans.
through it all over again.
You have to go through it all over again, and I had just kind of hit a point where it's like, oh my goodness, I don't. And you know, when you run into a little bit of like paperwork that you missed and you weren't expecting it. Like I was looking up, I was doing a transaction actually, buying a book, and my co-worker was looking, and my name under the account was the wrong one.
Mm.
And he saw it. He looked at me. He goes, "Okay, so there's the last name that I know is there, but it's a different first name. Do you want me to change it?" And I said yes, and he did. And like he never said what the other name was and did not make a big
Yeah.
deal of it. Shout out to you, Robert, that you're a real one.
Hell yeah, Robert.
Yeah, it was such a quiet relief of,
Yeah.
just, when you don't even have to think about it anymore. And I think a lot of cis people are so worried about, getting it wrong that they
Yeah.
will not try worse.
Yep.
And to just have the question directly, is that the name you want? Do you want to change it? Done. And never
Yeah.
make a big deal out of it. And he never brought it up again, ever. So I think he's the only person at that store who knows what my dead name used to be and has never brought it up once.
Wonderful. When someone, if you know a trans person's dead name, it is your duty to forget it.
Yeah, exactly. Gone. Done.
Yes.
I have no worries about that resurfacing at all.
That's beautiful.
So, yeah.
Okay, so after the procedure, they wheeled me to the recovery area to let the rest of the anesthesia wear off, but I was completely awake and alert already, which means for the past ones, I was perhaps given way too much because it took me all day to recover from, which doesn't help me be less anxious about having to go under, as you might imagine. But here is the turn. After the procedure, nobody misgendered me. Nobody dead-named me as they checked my vitals and prepped me to leave and called Susan to be sure she was there to drive me home because you can't drive after anesthesia. All of them got my name and pronouns right, even the ones who routinely got it wrong before, because that doctor apparently straightened out everyone who needed to be straightened out so that I would be respected as a human being. And when I tell you that makes her an angel, I mean it. She didn't put it on me to have to tell people they were screwing things up and have me risk that confrontation. She didn't stand for it, and she got them to stop. That is true cis allyship. That is being an accomplice. Check out episode 35 for another lovely example of a cis accomplice. She took what had been a pretty awful experience and turned it around into something that ended up feeling positive and affirming. And all it took was for her to just treat me with the respect that we should all show each other. She turned no escape into some escape, actually, and I love her for it. What's more, this doctor got things changed in their system somehow. You get these little follow-up notices afterwards with notes on what to expect after, what your vitals were, and all that stuff. And that stuff always said, Dead Name McGee, quote-unquote, Tilly Bridges. But now the form listed my name as Tilly S. Bridges, and then under, smaller, it said what my legal name at the time was. My legal name had changed, but they didn't have the documents for that yet. And still, this doctor went out of her way to do what she could to help. I sent her a thank you email explaining what an awful experience I'd had until she came into the picture and made everything better, because this truly meant the world to me and made my life better. And she wrote me back, and this is what she said. Hi, Tilly. Thank you for letting me know. I will definitely bring it up and review with the staff. We are always working on trying to be more inclusive and understanding, and I am sorry that happened to you yesterday beforehand. I can't even imagine how long/hard the transition journey is, so thank you for being so patient with all of us. We need to do better in supporting you. Please stay safe and see you in 5 years for your next screening colonoscopy. Isn't that beautiful?
That's really nice.
That's how to do it.
That is how you do it. Thanks for being here, Alex.
Thanks for having me.
Imagine treating trans people like human beings worthy of dignity and respect. I bet you can if you try. And please, please do be the allies we need and give us some escape. Tilly Bridges, end transmission. Tilly's Trans Tuesdays is hosted by Tilly Bridges and Susan Bridges with audio editing and sound mixing by Jillian Morgan. The written essay version of this week's topic and all past topics is available at tilliestranstuesdays.com. Special thanks to Daisy and Jane for the use of Sorry Not Sorry as our show's theme music. Please stop by and show your support at daisyandjane.bandcamp.com and soundcloud.com/daisyandjane. You can find me at Tilly Bridges on Blue Sky, on Mastodon at Tilly Bridges and Mastodon.social, and on Insta at Heck Yeah Tilly Bridges. And you can find Susan on those at Susan L. Bridges. You can find Jillian at Audio Jillian on Blue Sky. You can join the Tillyverse Discord server by following the link at the very bottom of tilliestranstuesdays.com. We hold regular watch parties for the Matrix films and other trans movies, where I do a live Q&A, and it's blossomed into a wonderfully supportive, compassionate, kind community of friends. We'd love to have you join us. If you'd like to keep up with all the writing that Susan and I do, you can sign up for our newsletter at birdguestbroadcast.com. Signed copies of our comics and my book, Begin Transmission, The Trans Allegories of the Matrix, are available on my coffee shop at ko-fi.com/tillybridges. If you're listening on YouTube, it's so cliche, but please like and subscribe and take a few seconds to leave a comment. Those feed the algorithm and helps the show be found by so many more people. If you're listening on other platforms, ratings and reviews help just as much, and I'd certainly appreciate them. Thank you for your support. For more information, visit pendantaudio.com. Thanks for listening.